and good evening once again. Welcome back to Book Club Conversation Series 8. Now, by now, I sure you know that through this series, we're doing it a little differently. For those of you who have been following the entire Book Club Conversations from Series 1, usually we read a book and then discuss the chapters. But of course, Series 8 is a special series as we bring entrepreneurs together because we really wanted to be able to present conversations that feature professionals and entrepreneurs as we reflect on practical applications all business owners should be mindful to engage as they think big and upscale operations. So the perspective is this. In each conversation, we give recommendations because we want to give you a wide range of options for resources that you could go read both online and offline. Now, the focus of this evening's discussion is marketing, advertising, and promotions for successful sales. I am your host, Alina Lewis, author and success coach. And joining the conversation in this episode, we have Rollocks, impact strategist, Candace Andrews, online event host. We have Randall Douglas, business consultant. And later on, we should be having one or two other persons join in as we continue this conversation about how businesses can continue to engage success. As always, I love to remind you, make sure you're clicking that notification bell. Make sure you're subscribing, you're following, whatever it is. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn. And remember, every time you click like, you share, you follow the page, you subscribe, you support the work, you support the initiative, so we can continue to bring really great and enlightening, entertaining, even conversations to you. Book Club Conversation Series 8 is made possible through the support of Launchpad Consultancy. So we're going to pause for one moment, take a word from Launchpad Consultancy, and then bring the team in as we delve into marketing, advertising, and the promotions for business success. So good evening to everyone in the studio this evening. It is great, as always, to have you all in. And I really want to delve in because in my mind, this is going to be a fun conversation because I want to get started by open floor, by the way, by having us identify. I want us to break up these terms. As we were chatting, guys, our book club followers, I was saying to the team offline, one of the observations many times is that people use the terms interchangeably, and that can get us into some trouble when we're trying to put our businesses out there because marketing, advertising, and promotions, they're not all one and the same. They're not synonyms. They're different things. And so I really want to open up the floor tonight. Anybody, any order, doesn't matter. Can you help us here and those viewing online understand what is the difference between marketing, advertising, and promotions?
So I think I'll take an initial crack at it. And it will be easy for me. Good evening, everyone, by the way, and welcome to our session. So it'll be easy for me to spout out some sort of basic definition from a textbook and so on. But I prefer to lean on my practical experience and maybe make it a little simpler, as my style tends to be. And when you think about it, some people say, okay, I'm really confused about what this advertising, marketing, and sales and promotions mean. If you think about it in terms of actually putting your product or service out there, if you have to get your product or service into somebody's hands, then you have to sell it. And selling is that job of really exchanging that good or service for money. So I'm trying to sell it and I'm trying to get it out there to my consumer. And there's a lot of things involved in sales, right? But essentially, it's really that transactional nature. I need to exchange it to get it into somebody's hands or to get them to use it. Promotions go along with sales because promotions are where we would often see, just like in our common supermarket, you'll say, okay, you can get 2 packs for a reduced price of $15 instead of one for, seven something. That is how it might go. So promotions can yield that way. Promotions can also be about the product or service in terms of the brand and saying, okay, we're going to promote the brand in a certain way. The promotions are like that. And the two last big fish in the pond where we talk about advertising and marketing. Now, sometimes people use them interchangeably. Sometimes one can be lumped under the other. So the umbrella term sometimes is marketing, and some people put sales underneath it from an organizational point of view and advertising underneath it. What does it really mean in a nutshell? Marketing is the overall strategy. What am I doing to really get my brand out there? What am I doing to get it either top of mind in somebody's, thought process, or maybe when they're making a decision in front of the shelf, or if they're looking to choose a service or a product, that comes to mind. Advertising now is one of the vehicles, one of the tools that we use to get our message out. So marketing is many different things. The whole strategy and the whole thing about getting the brand known and understood and getting my message across about what I represent. But advertising is how am I going to get there? I'm going to advertise it. I'm going to make it known using different tools. So that's a kind of a simplified way of making it a distinguishing factor. Sales is about getting my product and service out into people's hands. Promotions is about attracting people with nice offers. Marketing is the umbrella concept of getting my brand understood, getting my message out there and all that strategy. And advertising is one of the tools that we use. So that probably can be a kickstart point for us as we move forward in discussion.
Yeah, I definitely love that because quite often when I chat with persons about marketing, I tend to talk about marketing from a perspective of communication. So I tend to use it in marketing communication a lot because as you were saying, Mr. Douglas, we talk a lot about the umbrella, the concept. What do we want people to know? And so when we think about our marketing, a lot of times it's easy to just reduce it to say, what is it that we want people to understand? Whether they're understanding about the brand, the company, the philosophy, the work that we do, the service, the product, COVID policies, whatever. What do we want people to know? And that communication in turn will impact the other goals. But I want to touch on that because I'm saying that communication in turn will be able to impact other goals. But a lot of people get discouraged and despondent about marketing because they say, oh, I'm doing all this marketing stuff, but I ain't getting no sales. So, what more, and I'm putting it open there, what more can we bring into the conversation that would help people understand why is it that they may have an elaborate marketing plan but still not see a turnover, not see an increase in client sales, whatever it is that they're looking for? Any contributions?
Yeah, I can jump in here. Good evening, everyone, fellow panelists, and all those listening on LinkedIn or YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're joining us. I would say it also has to do with, and to continue what Randall was saying, the questions that you want to answer. All right. I think each of them answers different questions. So if you want to make sure that your product and service is fit for the market and it meets a need, then marketing is where you need to start. All right. And that's really the umbrella term that captures everything. Everything falls under marketing, right? So what that would then entail is, are you doing the right research? Do you have the right product for the right customer? Do you understand your customer? So oftentimes we put products out there, you understand, and then ask questions about, is this really what my customers need, and who is my customer? All right, we have a large group which is called a market, but in that market you have different customers with different needs, and you have to know exactly where you pitch in, and that's where the strategy comes in. All right, I think when you want to ask the question about how do I create interest, then advertising comes in, because advertising helps to create that interest. People see it, oh yeah, that's interesting, this stuff. It pauses them, it arrests them for a while and say, oh yeah, this looks like something that I might be interested in. But when you want people to buy, to make that exchange, then promotion and sales come in, right? So that moves them to action, whereas advertisers move them to interest to stop and take a look, So of course the challenge in the real world is that it's not like we stop to say, okay, marketing ends here and this ends here. They all work together, and I guess that's the challenge. But it is important to understand the distinction, because some people have an okay marketing strategy, but they don't get involved in sales or promotions. They don't have anything in their plan that drives somebody to buy. All right. And of course, part of this has come out of the whole idea that if I just build something, people will come. Once I put up a store, people will come. That's probably good marketing. You have the right store, you have the right idea, all your colors are right. But people need to hear about it. People need to know that something is happening that will cause them to buy now and not tomorrow. And that's where the other aspects come in. So I'll leave that on the floor for now.
That's interesting. And I'm happy that we brought up the question of what are we communicating, and this analogy about the fish and who is in the water. And I like to use analogies. And I remember one day I went into a pet store to help my friend purchase some fish for his son. So this was like a big adventure for me, because I think I've only been in a pet store once before, and not to buy anything, was just to drop off a package. So this time I was actually going to get to see the fish going through the whole process of catching it and all of these different things. And when we look at marketing, we want to understand who is actually in the water, because the reality is we cannot catch all the fish in the water. Why? Because something about our brand might be attractive to someone else versus the other fishes, if we want to say, in the pond or in the lake or wherever in the sea. So we have to also have that understanding that not everyone is my ideal client. Not everyone will be a part of my market. Yes, they are fish. They are swimming in this ocean, but we need to understand who is in the water and what do they need. So when I got into the pet store, he said he wanted this particular fish, but guess what? This particular species of fish came in different size, a different color, these different things. So he understood he wanted a particular color, a particular size for the son. So he decided, okay, I need to get that in. So in the marketing, we need to understand who is in the water. Then when we go to advertising, we need to understand how do we get the fish attention, right? How do we get attention? Of course, we will use various formats and platforms, example, social media or television, radio, print media. And a lot of persons are going away from print media, but print media still has a lot of power. Persons still read the newspaper, persons still go through different articles. So it's very important to look at how do we get their attention. So he decided, you know what? He's going to put the net in a certain position to fool the fish, to make it feel that, they're not going this way, but it's actually going to catch them. But we are not talking about trapping anybody. We are just talking about what is the strategy we want to put in place to get this person's attention. And going further, promotion is where we get to understand what is the bait that we need that will be attractive enough to catch this fish. If I know I'm going to get a box of cereal with milk that says free on it, I got a one-stop shop, and this promotion lasts till a particular moment in time that is attractive enough to meet me and my family needs. So it's very important for us to know this. So when we finally get the fish into the bag, we realize, hey, we can't just keep the fish in the bag. We need to pump some oxygen that will keep the fish alive. Because most of us, we get the promotions hot and sweaty, and we don't know what are the next steps to keep my client alive and keep buying from me. So I think that's the analogy I want to go with. And it's very, very important for us to understand what is the conversation we are having with our clients and what are they saying to us. And that will come in the market research as well.
Yeah, definitely, Candace. As always, thank you. Always love your contributions. And of course, we have a second Candace coming in to join us this evening. We have Candace Francis, and of course, she's an entrepreneur herself. So we're super excited to have her joining in book club conversations for the first time this evening. Yeah, so welcome, Candace Francis. Uh, I want to just sort of
Hello,
piggyback
Yes,
off
thank
of
Candace.
you. Thank you.
welcome. I want to piggyback off something Candace Andrews was just saying, as she shared about, the strategies that we use. And I'm envisioning three people here, guys. The first person I'm envisioning is the mature business owner who know about advertising and doing main paper ads. And main paper ads is the way to go, and that is how you get the word out. But of course, COVID has hit, and finances are not as free as they used to be. So it's a challenge, and getting the word out seems a bit hopeless. I'm imagining a second person who has really taken time during the pandemic and they've really learned Facebook, and they say Facebook is the way, and they've mastered it. They learn about demographics and assets and how to sponsor the ad, and they learned all of it. And they're a firm believer that they've mastered this one platform, and this is the platform they're going to use. And then I'm imagining the third person that says, hey, we had to be hip. So let us go on TikTok. Let us make video after video after video because we always have to keep up with the trends. I'm imagining three people. And my question is, which approach is best? Is it the traditional approach? Is it the modern approach? Which approach is best? Is it the approach that says, I'm going to use the method I've mastered? Or is it the approach that says, I need to go learn something new? How do people approach this when we think about traditional versus modern approaches to marketing, advertising, and promotions? I leave the floor open.
Yes, I
Well,
think.
go ahead. No,
Yeah,
you go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, I think this is where marketing is critical. Candice made use the analogy of the fish. You really have to know who you're targeting and why you're targeting and what you have to offer and how it connects with them. And that is really where the decision is made. All right. There are some, for example, if you go downtown Port of Spain to Charlotte Street and you go to one of those Chinese stores where you can buy everything, you're not likely going to see them online. You understand? The idea behind buying there is location, right? The geography and where they're located is critical they're all about location. So the type of product or service gives a guide to where you need to put of definitely demographics, and I know people like Candace and Randall can go to town on that. Particularly if you're going online now, the demographics have a lot to say whether you're going with YouTube or Facebook or so forth, because some are for older persons, some are for younger persons, right? Some are for professionals, which might be more LinkedIn, right? What I will say though is what I see a lot is that there tends to be a mix of what they call an omni approach, and I learned that from Alina, right? So generally there tends to be an approach where you have a piece of different types of social media for different reasons to promote your goods and services.
Yes, definitely, Roll. I couldn't agree with you more. And just to underline it in a different way, there's no perfect answer, Alina, to it. Really and truly, what it is about is that you must let, as Roll was getting at just now, you must let your consumer, your target market dictate. So if your target market are only reading newspapers, then that's traditional. If your target market is now all involved in TikTok or in IG, Instagram, whatever, then you need to be there and you need to understand how it works, and you need to get either you do it yourself or you need to get someone who can do it for you. So it's really about where your target market is. That drives and dictates your strategy and your approach. Obviously, as well, you can find some success by using other medium or other traditional versus new, or whichever one you may choose, that might get you the results still and get your message across. So in that way, you can still mix and match, but you must always be very aware and cognizant of where your target market is, what they're listening to, reading, understanding, influenced by, in order to then dictate your strategy and approach.
Yeah, and in addition to it, it's very important for us to not go with what we like or what we think is fancy, right? Quick example. I was very vibrant on Instagram until one good day I got hacked, and everything just shut down immediately. Now, of course, Instagram worked for me because of my demographic, right? Because of my demographic. But guess what? Um, had I kept a backup space for my content, example, YouTube, which it's kind of hard for somebody to hack your YouTube account. It's probably kind of impossible. So if you need to always have a backup space to live. And a lot of persons, they live in one or two spaces. They believe, you know what, Instagram and Facebook. But guess what? Instagram and Facebook, they are paired. So if you get hacked in one, most likely the other one will be corrupted as well. So you need to find different spaces to be found. And today I was telling my students, you need to also be Googleable. What does that mean? I need to type in your name in Google, and you must be able to come up in some searches that persons could say, hey, this person has a really healthy online footprint. This person has been making some healthy moves. This person actually is on LinkedIn, and guess what? When you are on LinkedIn, most of the times people take you serious because they think, oh, this is a corporate person. Knows this person definitely knows what business is. They definitely speak the language. They know exactly what they are about. But a lot of persons say, you know what? Everybody on TikTok, and TikTok cool, and TikTok nice. But guess what? TikTok is a tool. And if you don't know how to make use of the tool is not going to represent you well. I see a lot of elderly persons, no offense, they're trying to do certain TikTok moves to promote their brand. And while it might look cute, um, let's face it, the younger persons are saying, what are they doing? And now it's entertainment as opposed to bringing in income for you. So we really need to not go with what looks pretty or what looks cute. We need to go with what works, what will get the attention, and what bites. If you are on a social media platform and nobody's commenting, liking, or even sharing, something is wrong, because it means you are not doing something to provoke conversation or provoke engagement. Engagement is what brings in income. So that's my 2 cents on that section there.
Now, I want to ask Candace Francis. Candace, I know that during the pandemic, one of the things you had to do was to make a shift in terms of your bookstore and really bring things online. So I want to ask you, can you share any insight as to what are some of the factors you would have had to think about for marketing and advertising your store, whereas at one point you'd have had a physical space, now you exist online and you had to sort of migrate your customers? Can you share anything in your experience, whether things that excite you or even things that were difficult that you really had to work through? Do you have any insights to share?
Well, I think one of the things I did actually, one small correction was that I had a pop up just about when I started the business. I did a pop up, and that was to get a feel of how people would respond, because it's a new business, a new bookshop. Yes, I would have done my surveys and all prior, but I wanted to get a better idea. So I did a pop up. So that was just for a month or two. And then, but also had my website. So even though I had that physical space for just that temporary time, that period of time, the website was part of my plan. And then,
Right.
of course, when COVID came, when the pandemic hit in 2020, it was a bit easy because the website was already there, right?
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it wasn't too much of a hustle for me to try and gravitate. I think what has happened over the period of time, and I guess the pandemic has helped, that because everyone now was forced to get online, that worked in my favor, in that now I can really take advantage of the online space. What I also want to add, when Candace was speaking and she mentioned about some people only using, well, one form, one medium, and the risk you run very early. I think, as I said, everything coincided for me because very early I had other options. So again, yes, I use the social media, I use the Facebook, Instagram, but I also again have my website. So I try to pull people from the social media, take them to my website, and also I have the email marketing. I do a lot of the email marketing. So I try to pull them because at the end of the day, I've learned that the customers you have on Facebook aren't really yours. The customers on Instagram aren't really yours. So I try to get them, get my emails and stuff into my email marketing plan. So therefore, I will have access. So just in case something happens, like I think sometime back we had that whole day where Facebook wasn't on, I still have access to my emails and could speak directly to the customers. So to answer your question, it was not too much of a hassle, but then on the other side, I had to sharpen up my skills and learn the email marketing and well use those things to my advantage. The Google My Business, I had to use that to my advantage. So I think give and take, I think I am satisfied with that transition between when I started the business and now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I want to revert to Candace Andrews because, Candace, I know you need to pop out a little early before we officially wrap up. So, I want to ask you, Candace, do you have any resources before you pop out that you want to share with persons that could really inspire them in the areas of marketing, advertising, promotions, or anything else?
Sure. Thank you so much. And I want to share a quote and then I will share the resource. Now, last year was my year of investing. Every year I have a word that will guide me through the year. And last year, my word was alignment and investment. And basically, I realized that I really needed to invest in some coaching. So this particular coach told me, Candace, free is a strategy. And I never saw it like this before. She said free is a strategy. And a lot of business owners, they are afraid to offer certain things for free because they think that they are giving out and not getting back. But free is a strategy in terms of, I always tell persons, find a way to teach somebody something that connects and aligns with your business. Give it away for free and you will see the results as things come back. So I used to show up on Instagram live for free, giving information for free, doing all of these for free, but free is a strategy and the strategy is strategy dollars and strategy cents that will come back to you. And in all of this, I want to leave with you all the word innovation. Take innovation and don't be afraid to take risk. And this is one of the best books I ever read called The Road Less Traveled. Yes, it's about the psychology of love and values and spiritual growth. But I think some people forget that when they get in business, it's not a robot going into business. It's a human being with feelings and emotions and a life and all of these different moving parts to deal with. So I want persons to read The Road Less Traveled and open your mind to how can I make myself separate from the market that I'm in, understand what I bring uniquely to the space, and understand what I need to do to get me to the space where I can make a brand household name for myself and not just show up on these fancy ads where it looks pretty and then the news comes across that, we don't have to wear a mask no more if we are family members in a vehicle. And people forget that. But what do you do to be remembered and for your presence to be there, even if you are not present? How can you leave a mark in somebody's mind? So the road less traveled is a space that I really want everybody to live in. Use innovative strategies, take risk, and use free as a strategy. And if you need any help, find me on LinkedIn. And I could definitely give you a free consultation session on how to use a masterclass as a means of packaging your skill and your skill sets, or even launching out online using online platforms to launch a new product or launch a new service. So I'm happy to help and serve always. I always enjoy these conversations and I look forward to the next one. So that will be what I will bring to the table with these lovely individuals for tonight.
Thank you so much, Candace. Appreciate you as always for coming through. I want to ask a question. There's something that Randall said, something that Candace said that provoked me a little bit. So it's not on the official schedule of things we're going to talk about, but I want to ask it nevertheless. How important is the professional behind the brand? We've talked a lot about, Candace talk about making sure people can Google you. We've talked a lot about, people being able to research and putting yourself on social media and so on. But a lot of times putting yourself online, digitally, website, social media, whatever, means to a point, the professional behind the brand also needs to be there. Maybe, maybe not. So my question is, how important is it putting the person behind the brand out there as part of the strategy? How does someone know whether they could just push the business and quote unquote stay hidden? Or is it important that the professional behind the brand needs to be as seen? Anybody could share any insights there?
Well, certainly to add some certain perspective to it, I think it's a critical question, and you need to have someone either in your team or someone who you trust, or either as a mentor or a business partner, someone who can be honest with you about the professional and the branding and how it affects the branding. There are some situations where the business owner or you as a driving force can be the face of the business, can be the spokesperson who will be launching out with the brand, talking about the brand, testifying, being that driving force with the brand. And there's some cases where you should not be, because maybe the business owner doesn't have the same gravitas, the same charm, the same appeal as maybe a marketing person, a promotional person, someone you hire. It all depends on that situation. So, for example, some of you who may be familiar with American cable TV would have seen Shaquille O'Neal, who is a former NBA player. Everybody should know who Shaq is, I'm sure. And, tall, huge guy. And he's now retired, and he's invested in a number of businesses over the years that are not necessarily his business in terms of starting out, but he's put money into it. A couple of these, for example, we may have seen on cable TV. One is to call the General, which is an insurance company. Then there's Papa John's, which is a famous pizza, which he actually owns interest in. And what he has done, what Shaq has done, is that he has lent his face, because he's a celebrity, to the effort of promoting the brand. Some of you may be familiar with another actor, a younger celebrity, called Ryan Reynolds. He played Deadpool. He played a lot of different people over the years. Green Lantern. He does a lot of comedy movies, and he has recently invested in a cell phone company called Mint. Now, Mint has been around for a while, but it was struggling, and they're sort of like a kind of a boutique cell service. He invested in it, and he lent his face to it. And there are other stories of people who are non-celebrities doing the same thing, but that may not work for you. And you have to be careful to separate the two, a leader. So you can be professional, you can look the part, dress the part, you can get training, you can do everything, and it works well, and then sometimes it may not work well. One other point I wanted to make as well is that it's important to sometimes separate the professional from the personal. So in promoting the business, some people, there's a famous example of my wife who has been on some of the programs you all have presented, Andrea Rushford. And she's an example where she said she was speaking to, actually doing a session with some young business people. And one of them, their email was something like Sexy Lady 401 something, and they were using it as their professional email to send out for the class. And she said, that is okay for personal, but it doesn't necessarily convey the right message when it comes to professionalism. Now, we're not judging anybody, but the reality is that we are human beings. So when we see something, it may cast a certain mindset. So just to recap, that's the point. It's important to use that professionalism, and you can push your personal, that whole personal effect into your business, but you have to be aware that it may not work for you or it may not be appropriate. And at the same time, if you're pushing the personal, make sure that it is appropriate as far as not just being effective, which is one side, but also that you're not using things, that may be offensive to your target market or may not be comfortable for them. So it's something to be considered.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the second point because for instance, we don't hear about it much. At least I haven't heard about it a whole lot in Trinidad and Tobago. But I know in other quote unquote first world nations, there are lots of instances where, let's say, if you're in the teaching profession, but on your social media, you're showing yourself, just having a grand old time partying the weekend out, you could realize Monday morning you've lost your job, or something to that, or some sort of a penalization coming to you. And in the same way, the thought really came because sometimes it's not so much about you putting yourself out there, but the fact that we live in a digital world means people get into clickety click and searching, and so I thought it's an interesting question to ask. How important is the person behind the brand, in that you may not be intentionally aligning, but the reality is you are the owner, you are a director, you are a manager of sorts, whatever you are. How to what extent does that play in affecting the brand and the marketing? Rawle, did you want to share?
Yeah, I find it a very fascinating question. I really like to hear if there's an answer to it, because maybe it's just one of those things you kind of feel your way, and I guess your clients and your customers, give you a clue. Because, for example, there's Virgin Atlantic, and people know Richard Branson, right? But who is behind American Airlines? You understand? So it works well for Richard Branson, but it may not work for somebody if they tried with American Airlines. So it's really a fascinating question about how do you, but I like that we've brought it to the fore, because Candace Andrews mentioned the question of innovation. And innovation is really what's key, because the marketplace is so crowded with ideas, with people trying to sell you stuff, that you really have to stand out. You really have to, your unique value proposition has to come out very clear, and it has to scream and shout sometimes. So branding really gives an opportunity for it. And I really feel that is where there's a lot of space for innovation. So, for example, once you know your customer, that brand that connects with them, it's really amazing. You could be someone in the middle of the forest preparing a pot on 3 stones, and that works well for a particular target market. And they want to hear from you. They want to go on and see what you're doing. What's the latest thing you're doing with your 3 stones? Another target group, they want to see you elegantly clad with a chef's hat on. So this whole idea of understanding your customer, understanding who your target is so critical. And it provides an opportunity for anyone to really brand and position themselves as memorable in the mind of their consumers.
Yes, even as we wind down, one of the things I want to ask is whether approaches should be different. And of course, we know we're talking about marketing, advertising, promotions. Should these approaches be different based on maybe industry, size, or other factors, so that as persons leave this conversation thinking about how they could tailor these for success, they would be able to put it in perspective based on their own reflections of the type of business they own or run, and so on. So any insights as we wind down, and any resources you would like to share, this is a great time to share that as well. Should approaches be different based on the business type, industry, or size, as people get ready to leverage their marketing, advertising, and promotional activities for business success? Open dialogue.
Well, I'll jump in because it's really an extension of what I was sharing before, that each market is different, each product is different. All these factors go into determining your approach. So there's no cookie cutter approach. There's the approach that might work for someone else that just mightn't work for you, right? Especially if you're going to be bringing yourself as part of the brand into the fore, So taking time to understand and to ask questions about why people buy, what they're really looking for. These kind of things give you a hint and a clue as how to shape your marketing messages, your marketing communication to fit that particular market. So, I like to use a hairdresser. There's some hairdressers by just their style alone. People would say, yes, you understand? I want to go there. There are other hairdressers that, it's about the school, it's about the establishment, it's about, so you really have to take some time to understand that and craft a strategy that works best for you. What I like to leave with persons is a book by a guy called Nur Iyal. So a very strong, strange sounding name. But the name of this book is called Hooked, right? This book delves into the psychology behind how do you make your brand or your product or service habit forming. How do you build that, right? And it was done by examining what people do with a lot of technology type products. So for example, every time you hear that ping on your phone, you immediately go to see if there's a that type of, so that he studied that, and he then built an approach as to how do you make your product habit forming so people come back again and again and again. So I encourage those listening in to get your hands on it. It's a small book about, it wouldn't take you probably about half an hour to read, but it has some nice keys in there to help you have, to ensure that you have return customers, return clients. So it's called Hooked by Nur Iyal, How to Build Habit Forming Products.
Okay. So, just to add to the question, and probably just piggybacking on what was all been said, I think the key thing is that whole idea of being, and someone said it earlier, being memorable, and in a way being remarkable. Because from a strategy point of view and an approach point of view, ultimately, when you're building your strategy and you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to get my product and service out there, I'm going to do it in these ways. What is the end message? How do I want to be remembered? What do I want people to walk away with when they see my communication, when they read my ad, when they see me on Instagram, when they hear me talk, when they see me, as Rawle was saying, as a presentation point of view? What is the message that people are taking away? And being remarkable is extremely important, and there are many different ways to do it, and sometimes very creative ways. And we have to be able to think about it and try and work it through. Sometimes we have to lean on others who have experience or are creative in different ways, but we guide them with strategy. So I think it's very important that in terms of how do we approach and what approaches we use, you have to be very key about what do I want people to walk away with, because that can dictate our strategy. That can dictate what we use and what tools we use. There's a famous book that I would suggest as a tool, a resource that people can look to. It's called The Purple Cow. I know Rawle knows that one, by Seth Godin, right? It's available as an ebook. It's available as a physical book you can order as well. And just the name, The Purple Cow, will kind of raise your eyebrow and say, what's that about? But if you think about it, have you ever seen a purple cow? No. And that's the concept behind the book. Seth Godin is a well-known marketing guru who's written a number of books, but this is one of his most famous ones. And the whole idea is that trying to create this purple cow, whether you paint the cow, whether you genetically modify the cow, which is of course a taboo thing for some people, but whatever you do, that will stand out in a field of black and white cows. Yeah, and you want to stand out by your approach, by your choice of tools, as you were just asking about, Alina, in terms of approaches, by the type of medium you select, by the same concepts of being traditional or being modern. You want to stand out. And even if you're using yourself as a marketing and promotional and branding tool, you want to stand out in that way and be remarkable. And he goes through a number of different approaches and tips and tools you can use in creating your brand strategy to be that purple cow for your business in a sea of so many other cows that may be very similar with their patches of black and white and so on. So that is kind of what you want to emulate in that way. So it's the resource I'd recommend, and it's just the concept of being that remarkable person or remarkable brand in your field.
Candace, any closing words that you would like to share?
Yes. So, as I didn't get his name, but you have to be different, and think about what you can do different, what you can bring to the table that is different. Work on that, develop it to the best of your ability, and present that to your customer. Another point I want to make is networking and collaborating are important tools, right? You can collaborate share information, meet others, network. It helps. And also, too, again, Candace would have said that before, always take the opportunity to teach something, right? Give somebody some bit of advice here and there because it comes back. Because these are things that I personally would have done. I would have tried over the period of time that I have been into business, and I am seeing the results. So that's the bit of advice there that I would like to leave for
Alina,
others.
can I make a quick plug?
Sure.
Right? No, I don't know how many of you like Polori, right? But there's someone that does Polori in Malabar. I don't know how you've had Polori before, but you'll never have any other Polori when you've had. Now, I don't have any shares in this company, right? I am just a customer. So you can get Sahina Lori, Salori, mix. It just is amazing. You can get Baji Polori, but I don't know if anybody knows about it out there, but it's just amazing the combinations that they've put together. And this thing is really delicious. And it stands up to the point that Candace just made and Randall was just making. You know, find a way to stand out from the crowd and be different. All right?
Yeah, so it's now minutes to 9, and you're getting all of us hungry when we should not. We should be have stopped eating at 6 o'clock or something, right? But thank you for that example. And I want to encourage people as a resource. Explore podcasting. There's a tons of information out there through podcasts, whether you go through Spotify, Google Play, the traditional ones, or you go on YouTube, because most, if not all, of the podcasting channels, most of them are on YouTube, not just audio only, but with full video format, including the Caribbean Business Podcast, where you can get loads of information about how you, as a Caribbean, a national, a CARICOM national, can access support for business development services. And that's going to be airing next episode this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. And if you want to learn more about the Caribbean Business Podcast, make sure you visit www.caribbeanbusinesspodcast.com. They say hashtag support local. This is a good local opportunity right here, based right here in the Caribbean, helping Caribbean businesses expand, develop, and reach new markets. So make sure you visit and check out CaribbeanBusinessPodcast.com. Guys, thank you so much for joining in the convo. Candace Andrews left early, but we thank her as well. And next week, we're wrapping up, everybody. Next week is the last of this particular series. So make sure you tune in, make sure you're part of it, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, have a good one and stay safe. Thank you.
Bye.